First, the big breaking news from last night. Let me first talk about the news and then what he said on a hot mic. First, it's Christie. Chris Christie has officially dropped out of the Republican primary, which, I'm honestly disappointed in. I get what he's doing. I get why he's doing it. But there's two things. For one, I'm disappointed that he's doing it. And for two, I don't think it's going to do what he thinks it's going to do. You know what I'm saying? He's doing this because he thinks that if he drops out, the voters that he would have had will go to either Haley and DeSantis and give them a better chance of beating Trump. And here's why I disagree with that. I feel like the Chris Christie voter who was going to vote for Christie above anyone else is a very unique position relative to the Republican Party. The Chris Christie voter above any other candidate still in the primary, and I would maybe even argue above anyone who was in the primary overall. They are the completely fiscally conservative Northeast Lincoln Project conservative. They don't care about they don't care about culture war BS. They don't care about wokeism. They don't care. They are pro-choice on abortion. They are pro-gay rights. They are pro. The only reason why they ever were Republicans was because of economic issues. They thought the Republicans would be better for them on things like taxes and fiscal policy. Those are the types of Republicans that Chris Christie was targeting. And no one else. And those Republicans are not going to suddenly flip to either Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis. Because they are both too Southern, too focused on they're too focused on wokeism and culture war stuff, and they're too focused on identity politics, and they're not focused enough on what actually matters. So, I get why Chris Christie thinks this is the right move, but I can almost guarantee you that it's not going to move the needle the way he thinks it's going to do in the Republican primary. Because I think the vast majority of Chris Christie supporters in the primary, I know because, for full disclosure, that's who I was voting for in the Republican primary. I was debating on whether to vote in the Republican or Democratic primary between either voting for Chris Christie as both because he was the most sensible choice on the Republican side and also to vote against Trump, or to vote for Marianne Williamson in the Democratic primary. And unless Christie decides to come back in before the South Carolina primary, he has made my choice for me. And that, I feel, is going to happen to a lot of the Chris Christie voters. A lot of people who were Chris Christie supporters will more than likely do one of three things. Either A, will just sit out the primaries because they don't have a horse in the race, will vote for Joe Biden in the Democratic primary, or will vote, you might have some like myself who have been pushed further left since their days in the Republican Party and vote for Marianne Williamson in the Democratic primary. But I can almost guarantee you that you're not going to get hardly any Chris Christie supporters that are now suddenly going to vote for either Nikki Haley or either Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis. So let's go through this real quick, shall we? And then I'll give you my thoughts on it afterwards.
As we've been noting, just ahead of his announcement, Christie appeared to be heard on a hot mic talking about Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. I want to play this little clip.
And she's going to get smoked. And you and I both know it. She's not up to this. DeSantis called me, petrified that I would.
He's probably getting out after Iowa.
Well, what did you think?
I don't know what the.
So he first says Nikki Haley's going to get smoked. And then later on, I guess, I don't know if they're going to play it anymore.
Context of this is, does he mean?
Let's see. Let's see if they play any more of the clip. Okay, no, they're just talking about it being Nikki Haley being smoked. But he also says that DeSantis called him worried about the primary and worried about what's going to happen and whatnot. Which, if, yeah, you should be worried. And the funny thing about it is that I don't get why Chris Christie is dropping out then. He's saying the quiet part out loud. He's saying that Nikki Haley is going to get smoked, which she is. But then he's still dropping out. So if you're dropping out, I don't get it. I don't get it. Why bother dropping out if you know that you dropping out isn't going to help, presumably, the candidate that you are preferring to win? He didn't, in his concessions or in his dropout speech, he didn't specifically say he was endorsing anyone. But you'd have to imagine that he's endorsing either DeSantis or Haley. And if you think they're both going to get smoked, then why bother dropping out? I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. But like I said, it makes... I'm disappointed that it happened. But I guess on the upside, it makes my life easier.